we still got Paul Preston afterwards.
Okay.
But I get to introduce Paul now?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Here's a guy that knows more about this, I think, than I do, but it's been a great help. So.
Let's hear it one more time for Roger. Here's the commercial. He mentioned rules for radicals. I suggest you get a copy of this and read through it. And you can call me at any time. I can interpret the book for you if you want to know what's going on. One of the things I do on the radio show is I use reverse Saul Alinsky all the time. I know all the rules for radicals, so I say to myself, well, if they can use it on us, why can't we use it on them? And I'm always using rule number 7. And that is, don't let a crisis linger long. Because if you do, then you're in danger, as a radical, of having it turn on you. So every day, I say, Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. Yeah. I love violating rule number 7 on behalf of Hillary Clinton. So, you can use these rules against them. In fact, there's a book out. I don't know the title, Larry, maybe you know the title of the book about, it's like the Republican version of it, or the Tea Party version of it. So, get this book back there in the back. Okay, I'm really happy to say Roger's a friend of mine. If you ever get a chance to go out to his ranch, it's really fascinating, especially with the turkeys. Lots of wild turkeys and stuff like that, but he's a real warrior. And Roger, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time you've spoken before a Tea Party, isn't that correct?
Correct.
That's, okay, now, how many of you have ever heard of Roger Morgan before tonight? Okay, now, let's spread the word.
Liberty Tour.
Liberty Tour, oh, well, the Liberty Tour, but, and I was very happy to get him on the Liberty Tour. He's going to be on all the rest of them. I want to make him be on the rest of them and give him all the time he needs, plus other people. What's Carla's last name?
Who?
Carla?
Me?
No, not you. No, the Carla. I can't remember Carla's last name. Who?
Mrs. Virgo.
No. It's not Mrs. Virgo. I'm talking to Roger now. What's Carla's last name?
Carla Lowe.
Lowe, right? Okay, this is how I met Roger. I was watching, I heard about a report that was going to be on one of the local, I guess it was on Fox News, about marijuana usage in this area, in California. And so Carla Lowe, who's an associate of Roger, was the guest. And then they had the pro-marijuana guy there. And so I love Carla. I fell in love with Carla in a heartbeat, because she just kept on referring to the guy from Normal or wherever he was from as a pothead. Just a pothead, you're a pothead. Every other word was pothead, pothead, pothead. And I'm cheering, yeah, because he's a pothead. And so finally, at the end of the interview, you could tell this guy was just ticked beyond all recognition. So he says, I really resent the fact that you're calling me a pothead. And she looked at him squarely and said, well, you are a pothead. And that was the end of the interview. So I called her up. I said, who are you? Who are you? And that was basically the lead-in to Roger. And I got to know Roger and all the great, this guy does fantastic work on this whole messaging of George Soros and with everybody else, with the marijuana. Now, let's spread the word about what's going on. This is a very good forum tonight to do the one person at a time routine to tell the truth. The only thing that's going to stop this is the truth. And they can't stand the truth. George Soros cannot, how many billions of dollars has he invested in this whole thing worldwide? And a lot of it's just burning up. People are fighting against it. And they're not spending a lot of money to do it. It's just communication, communication, communication. Okay, now, Roger, I'm done with you for tonight, buddy. But I am so happy to call you a friend and a fellow traveler with this anti-marijuana business. And I hope all of you will join along. Okay, I'll open it up for questions about things that are going on that I can answer. So any questions about any topic out there? Yes, sir. I can give you, I just had a feeling somebody was going to ask me about Ferguson. Dan Johnson, he's been at both of our Liberty tours. He's the 21-year-old whiz kid, and quite impressed with everything. This is a great story. I got to tell you this. Cliven Bundy. He refers to how many went to the Liberty tour and saw the segment in this last one with Dan Johnson? Well, okay, he's on Skype and he's constantly doing this. He needs like a Kleenex or something, but he's doing it. So what does Cliven get up there and do? Did you catch that? She says, I don't know who this snot-nosed kid was. and complimented. It was one of the funniest things. But Dan Johnson is with PANDA, which is the People Against the National Defense Authorization Act. This is what one homeschool kid can do. He has hundreds of thousands of followers around the nation trying to put a stop to the NDAA and the Patriot Act, and it's working. He's using county and city governments to stop the affiliation with the federal government to prevent the act from being carried out in their counties. And it's working. And he was in Ferguson, and I had the opportunity to meet him a long time ago, about 3 or 4 years ago. He was on my radio show, and I've been following him. So he went to Ferguson when it first broke out in August. And then we had a report. He was actually in Ferguson at the first Liberty tour. He was in Ferguson. And so we had an opportunity to have him at the last one. And he's been one of my sources on the ground for talking about what's going on in Ferguson. But I can tell you the latest.
Please do.
All right. Don't shoot. Here we go. And this goes right into what Roger's talking about. Here we go with the false narrative. Hands up, don't shoot. Right? Okay, that came from Mr. Brown's cohort or friend who said that he had his hands up and he was saying don't shoot, and the officer shot him. Well, now the evidence is in. And the evidence clearly indicates, after 3 autopsies and after the grand jury, and by the way, everybody is saying, and I concur, I'm not an attorney, but I kind of know how these things go. There is no evidence to even warrant any kind of, he should never have had charges even thought of. And then we're talking about Wilson. So, the old hands up, don't shoot, it's a complete false narrative. It's an absolute lie. And it's being perpetuated by the administration and by Mr. Sharpton. Now, we have gone on to we're getting a little bit toxic in our conversations sometimes on Agenda 21 Radio. I have no idea why that might be the case, especially when it comes to Mr. Obama and Sharpton and Eric the Great Holder. We have an article that's coming out. I was going to publish it today, but I decided not to because there's just too much good news coming. And that we have labeled them the Bigot Brothers. And I mean that. I mean, look at the definition of bigot and bigotry. And you tell me if those 3 do not fit it. And they absolutely do. So I asked Robert Exter, he's the guy who does all the police forensic artwork, to draw up the Bigot Brothers together. So if you go to our website, you can see his caricatures of the 3. And boy, have we been getting hits since I published it yesterday. And I just left the bigot definition saying, sorry, coming soon, but it's just getting swamped. Because people are realizing, people are waking up, and we're using that terminology as in the real sense of what bigotry really does mean. In other words, we're not sugarcoating it. They're not, right? We should tell the truth. So we're getting a lot of hits off that. Okay, but now that you've heard Roger, and some of you have heard me come out with this story, and I'm the only guy on radio talking about this. That is so sad. It really is. And that the problem that has gone on with Mr. Brown is marijuana. It's a drug problem with him. It was a serious addiction. He had a 15 times higher amount of THC in his blood and urine when the autopsy was done from somebody who does a baseline, normal, I guess what you would call normal, whatever is normal, level of THC in a person's body. Now, I've worked with kids for 26 years with addictions and marijuana. I've done over 3,000 drug and alcohol recognition examinations like the Highway Patrol does. I'm an expert witness in court. And I can tell you, these kids, when they have that level of THC in them, are incredibly violent. Violent. And you can't tell, but listen, I have worked with Michael Browns before. I know Michael well.
Does it depend on the individual more than the drug?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely
So
not.
anybody that just is super high is just gonna be violent?
Potentially, yes, with the levels he had. Absolutely. There needs to be triggering mechanisms. But especially somebody, and I'll couch this, in the age group, particularly between 15 and 25. And you'll find them turning violent like that. I've seen it too many times.
On alcohol, drugs?
Marijuana.
Just marijuana?
Just marijuana. I love this because I appreciate your comments.
I'm from the Bay Area. And,
Right.
I
I know.
know about that. No,
Yeah.
and I'm not liberal, I'm not a Democrat.
Right.
I've seen it all. And I'll tell you right now, alcohol is a bad one because people black out.
Right.
People don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And they basically become possessed. I don't know about weed totally blinding you to the fact that you black out
Okay.
and kill somebody.
And you're welcome, to your opinion. My expertise in seeing this, I've witnessed this. It's not an opinion.
Oh, okay.
I've witnessed this numerous times with kids in this condition. That's why I say I know Michael Brown well. And what is the first thing he did? He became violent with the police officer.
Is it just because he's just a jerk, maybe? Maybe he's just a young punk? Because usually young people at a young age are more violent than somebody, let's say, that's 40.
Well, it's clearly he's predisposed.
There's exceptions to the rule on a lot of things.
Well, I just mentioned between 15 and 25 is an exceptional year for these kids to
Doesn't
be.
matter if they're on drugs, they could just be that way, period.
Yeah, but you know what? When you have those levels of THC, you're going to get that.
So what about crystal meth? What about LSD?
That's what you're dealing with. Same thing.
Yeah.
You will see similar situation, but he did not have any of that in his bloodstream. He had THC.
Okay. So he smoked a joint and he
Oh
wanted
no, that's not a joint.
Oh, a couple
That's
blunts, I'm
that's a
sorry.
lot of blunts. He was a consistent smoker of marijuana. That's usually what you see. Now, what the other evidence comes in like this: what was he stealing? What was he doing?
Cigars,
For what?
probably for
A couple blunts, like 48 blunts.
Okay, so everybody's like that. Anybody that is a violent person is a marijuana user.
No, I'm saying if you start adding up all that evidence together, that's what we're talking about, somebody getting to be violent. That very much happens.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, those are my experiences.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
for you. How come, I've been watching this I like Fox News
Right.
and Hannity and these guys.
Right.
They've been exposing all this. But I never heard
Hannity?
the Sonoria about they drug. They never did talk when
Right, they don't.
They don't, why?
Well, that I think Roger would understand. This is something that's kind of like verboten in the media world. But this is in the, you can read the autopsy, please do.
But why aren't they saying it?
Okay, that's a very good question. It comes back down to things like the media is being controlled and manipulated by George Soros and others. And, you see this all the time in the media. We're used to seeing this. And that's why you're having a lot of alternative media sources like Newsstream Media that has developed where we're getting the truth out and we're speaking about the truth. So-
It seems like to me, and I bet these people all probably think the same way, the blacks in this deal, what they're really after, if I steal from your store and I beat you up, you can't kill me. This is what it's about. You see,
Well, what I, the way I look at this thing, I don't look at it racially, I look at it from a behavioral standpoint. And what I see is an assault on the black community, and have seen an assault on the black community, especially by those people that want to prey upon them. If you want to look at the liberals, I look at the cartels in particular. I know how they operate. I've seen that whole gig for years going on. And they come in, and like Roger was talking about, they set up like one of the dispensaries, and then they immediately take that THC or that medical marijuana, which is about 30-35%, and they start dispensing to young kids or the young adults, who then turn around and start selling it to the high school kids and the junior high kids.
Well, it's going around in the black community too, and a lot of whites. They say the officer should use a laser on him, or whatever you call that.
Taser.
Yeah, why didn't he have that?
Pink lady in the back.
Why didn't he have that in his holster? When he got out, he got away from the guy, right? The black guy was running, Brown. Why didn't he pull out a laser and stop him?
I mean a taser.
Well, taser, okay.
Right.
Why didn't he use that?
Have you read the report?
No.
Okay. Anybody read the report? Taking the time? Okay. And what happened in the report that was confirmed by the grand jury was the stories that we all heard, the original narrative, was just absolutely not true. Don't shoot, hands up, don't shoot. That was just, it never happened. But what happened was that there was an engagement on the side, on the road. The officer pulled his car up and blocked the two from walking. Now we're talking about Brown and his friend, because they were walking right down the middle of the street. And so he told them, get over to the side of the road. And then the officer noticed that Brown had the cigarillos, or the Swisser Sweets, and he fit the description of the strong arm robbery. He's a big kid, he's 6'4", 300 pounds. He had the clothes, he had the hat. And that's when it went down. He got out of his car, and getting out of his car, Brown shoved the door closed. And that's when it was game on. And he started punching the officer in the face. So the officer went for his gun, and Brown went for the gun. And there was a struggle for the gun. Now, who heard Wilson in the interview? What did he say?
He said he feared for his life.
Yeah.
After being punched in the face several times, he feared for his life.
Isn't that what you're always told to say? You're in fear of your life.
Oh, jeez.
I would think he would.
When you have it in your face, you fear for your life.
Yeah, but guess what? I fought people that size and I never shot them.
Well, good.
And guess what? I'm a lot smaller. I don't have to have a gun.
Oh, good for you.
Well, good. That's fine.
It doesn't-
I'm not knowing. But you know what? We don't know. We weren't there. That's right. It could have went either way.
Okay,
Or it
but-
could have been lies on both
Oh,
sides.
No.
Officers lied.
The problem,
Hey,
yeah, okay.
the question I had to you is,
Anyway, what happened was he pulled out his gun, and Brown was immediately struggling with the officer to get his gun. The gun went off, and there was powder burns on his hand. This is on Brown's wounded hand. And then Brown took off, and when he came out of the car, out of his vehicle, finally he turned and started to pursue Brown, to which Brown stopped at one point and then started to run back towards him. Now, one of the things I found fascinating, and if you'll take a look at
This ain't
the,
a real tea party.
thank you,
This ain't a real tea party.
thank you.
Go back to San Francisco.
You guys are like wannabe.
Anyway, what happened, if you take a look at the information, if you take a look at the pictures, and this is one of the things I think was so telling, and you don't see this on the press, is what happened is that his body is only a few feet from the vehicle. And there's a blood trail that leads from behind him towards the vehicle. So in other words, he actually was, and according to 7 witnesses, both black and white witnesses, confirmed in front of the grand jury that Brown actually was charging at him. None of the forensics, none of the evidence indicates that he was shot from the back. All the evidence indicates what supported the story of the officer. Now, I don't know about you, but I go with that evidence. And that's what happens when you have these kind of things mixed up, when you have somebody who's 18 years old, and this to me is important. The brain development is not there. A 40-year-old's different. But when you have that much THC in your bloodstream, you're bound to do something. And he was very, very violent. Question?
People are going by the motions,
Right.
not the evidence. That's the problem.
Yep.
They're going by their emotions and not the evidence. You just seen it here.
Yeah.
He disregards the evidence,
Right.
you know.
He's got his opinion. He's welcome to it. But I think we saw a pretty good display of that. It's classic. It's a wonderful thing. Danielle, I gotta get Danielle, but she's gonna just drive me nuts if I don't. And she might, yeah, she might be. All right. Question, yes, ma'am.
I sent emails to Feinstein, Boxer, and Garamendi about our meeting session. We not sign any treaties or any important legislation without all the congressmen being present. Do you know, have you heard anything about what's going on in the lake, Jack?
No, I haven't, other than they're trying to get the bill for the budget all straightened away and whatever's going to happen there for the continuing resolution. I think that's probably, if they can get something done there, that's all that they need to do right now. There's a real pause on things that are happening right now. I think everybody's just kind of letting Obama do his thing right now and really kind of sink himself even more so. I think it's pretty obvious. His poll numbers are going absolutely through the floor, and they'll continue to do so. But you know, the guy's virtually lawless at this point. And I think that when we come back in January, you're going to see some major things happening with Obama, and also with reining in some of the budget items such as amnesty. I think the Republicans are going to do that. Yes, sir.
Let me put this to you. One of the Seahawks was fined by the NFL for $100,000 because he wouldn't appear on television. It would have made them some money. Do you think the NFL might fine the 5 Rams? Hands up.
You know, they came out with a decision they're not going to do anything to these guys. I think that the public scrutiny and the criticism of all 5 of them is going to continue. I roundly criticize them. You can't be. The guys are totally ignorant of the facts. And that's what we're seeing here play out. Emotional things, you know, the facts are the facts. You can't refute what all these witnesses have brought to the table. Plus, the other unknown, the other thing that I think is just so obvious is the level of marijuana that he had. And, you know, all those Swisher Sweets, I got to tell you, what the kid was going to do, that was called, you know, packaging for sales. He was going to sell those Swisher Sweets. Of course he was.
It's like the Olympics with the power signal, you know, in the Olympics, and they got reprimanded.
Well, I don't think the NFL wants to get into that whole thing about, you know, people's freedom of speech and all that stuff. I thought it was very offensive, and I condemn the Rams for it. I think less of them for it. I certainly think less of those 5.
The Rams should fine them at least.
That's up to them to do that. Yeah. Yes, sir.
There was a St. Louis news guy, talk radio guy, just before I left the house. They had that meeting with the NFL today, but they're leaving it open for tomorrow. There's another meeting scheduled. And I guess the Ram fans are upset.
I bet they do.
St. Louis is just...
Hey, listen, and you got guys on the radio like me fueling that fire. I love it. I love it. You know?
Just keep telling the truth.
That's right. You heard what happens when the truth happens. You saw it. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. The weather. Okay. All right. Now, I know we've been criticized. I've been criticized about the tinfoil hat coming out when we talk about geoengineering. But it's pretty obvious that geoengineering is going on. In fact, I sent out on my YouTube the 2009 Discovery Channel feature on geoengineering, which they talk about as fact. Okay, that was done in 2009. So, you know, when you got those channels that are virtually verifying that geoengineering is taking place, it's taking place. According to Dane Wigington, it's just they're saturating the upper atmosphere, and you can see the chemtrailing going on almost on a daily basis now. They are permitting it to rain, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
We don't know how long that's going to last, though. But it's going to continue, and they seem to be picking up their efforts worldwide.
Did you see the sky above Sacramento about 3 weeks ago? There was 2 tankers up there, and the whole sky was just totally crisscrossed and full.
Yeah, that was on a Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, because I got calls from some of you here.
Pictures of it, but
Yes, sir.
We were in Colorado this year. I mean, they were flying. You'd see them like in a group pattern. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way across the sky.
Yeah.
Every day. We were back there 19 days.
Well, I think it was kind of interesting. The night we had Dane Wigington on Skype here, And it was just at the perfect time of the evening when we could go out and watch chemtrailing happen. And it was pretty amazing. Yes, ma'am?
Can you please describe the they that you just used?
In the chemtrailing?
Yes. And also he used it also.
This is a coordinated effort. Our military is involved in it. And so is the Navy, and so is a number of large corporations, including Raytheon. And a lot of governments around the world are actively involved in it, including the Chinese government, which they advocate for geoengineering and climate change all the time. That's just a known fact in China that they're geoengineering deliberately. And they're using it against us. This is the theory out there that I think most people are supporting. By the way, Dane had a conference a week ago Friday, which over 700 people showed up in Reading. People flew from Alaska and Florida to get the information out about what's going on with geoengineering. So, this is an interesting thing. At our Liberty Tour, when we had him there, he was passing out free DVDs, right? So he had an order of 2,000 DVDs for that conference, and UPS lost the order.
Oh,
How convenient.
okay, so
Yeah.
you're saying it's the governments, the world governments,
Yes.
Raytheon.
Raytheon is one of the big corporations, Lockheed Marietta, or Martin Marietta Lockheed, I guess what it is now. A lot of these big corporations are actively involved in it.
And the purpose?
Well,
They think they're stopping global warming, is what they think.
they say it's under the guise of global warming, but the real purpose is population control.
Exactly. Yep.
And if you listen to my show, I'll have a special guest on Wednesday that will be talking about the Georgia Guidestones. Absolutely amazing things are going to come out of that program. But it's a depopulation project is what it is under the guise of global warming. And that's pretty much, I think, everybody in the business who understands geoengineering, plus Agenda 21, United Nations Agenda 21, that's one of the central themes of Agenda 21 is depopulation. They want to get the population from 7 billion down to 500 million. These are the George Soros types. And you can see how maybe some of these things with the wrong arm of George Soros interfering with our media and then drugging our kids, you see. That's a deliberate act of trying to kill off people. That's why it's so important to get this information out. Now here's the really good news, I'm telling you this. Let's not be beat down by any of this stuff or discouraged, because they are pushing their schedules around to accommodate the fact that we're finding things out they don't want us to find out at this time. And that's a good thing. And it's got them really worried. And I think the more we press, the more information we get out, the more we spread, the more that those people are going to start turning and doing different dance. Because they don't want to be found out. They don't want to get caught. Can you imagine the liability on these people when they get caught? I say when they get caught. Because I think it's a matter of time. There's too much evidence now. Dane Wigington and the people behind him, who I've met a bunch of them, are just absolutely stellar. These are not, wackos with tinfoil hats on like myself. These are real PhDs, real scientists, real biologists, well, but people in the field, retired Department of Fish and Game, people like that all throughout the nation and the world. And they're interacting, and they are trying to stop Dane Wigington right now with like crazy. And that's a fact. So the more we spread this word out, and the more we put on our own little tinfoil hat, the worse it is for them. Yes, ma'am. Wigington. Okay, the website is geoengineeringwatch.org. And Dane runs a website out of Redding, California, and that has been the one that's most active in exposing and teaching about geoengineering. And he's done just a stellar job. Yes, sir.
We got away from it a little bit. Did Panther bring out any revelations or anything from Ferguson this time?
Yeah. The thing about Ferguson, I was going to touch on this earlier. But the thing about Ferguson, if you watched the night when they, first of all, when they gave the results to the grand jury, they gave the results at 9 o'clock at night. Okay? Having some background in riot training and stuff like that, that tells me that's really the wrong time of day.
Yeah.
You know, because how can you see the criminals at night? Number one. But also, a cold night like that, it makes those cars that are burning and those buildings that are burning, that makes great theater. And then here's the real big thing, is that Jay Nixon, who's the governor of Missouri, said, oh, the National Guard's ready. Has them on alert for 3 weeks. And then they weren't there. Now, I think that's a clue. Then maybe something else was happening. Maybe a call from Eric the Great or President Obama to say, yeah, let's let it burn. Now, Jay Nixon, he wants to be Hillary Clinton's running mate in 2016. So I don't know if there's a connection there or not. But of course, what is going on the ground, from what I've been told, the people themselves do not, Ferguson, are absolutely livid with Obama, Sharpton, and Holder, because they know that they're the ones causing it, and that they're the ones that are fueling all this and bringing in all these outside agitators. Almost all the arrests in Ferguson over the last several days have been from people outside of Ferguson. I think there's been only one from Ferguson. So that shows you what's going on. And now they're trying to spread it to other places.
It's a second shot at the Trayvon Martin thing. Yeah, it didn't work with Trayvon, now they're trying with this.
Right. And that's really what it is. They learned from Trayvon Martin that we could probably stage something. And one of the things that's going around that's really interesting is one of the police cars that was burned down. If you notice, it's a Crown Vic. It doesn't seem to have all of its equipment in it. And it's an older Crown Vic. Now, inquiring mind, those are just little details that, I put it out to some of my buddies out there, and they're going bing, bing. And the way it looks like it's staged, I'm sorry. But, you just have to kind of put 2 and 2 together, and don't, it's like what I always used to do when I did the connect the dot drills with my students. In the end, when you connect the dots, as I was teaching them, I always had a big dot up here and a big dot down here. And how simple is it when I say connect the dot, just connect the dot. But a lot of people will overthink the connect the dot. So they think they have to have 10 dots over here and 10 over here to finally get to that dot down there. Don't do that. It's pretty obvious what they're doing.
Well, you know what?
Air Jordans.
When I asked you the question on the Ferguson, I didn't get to finish my question.
Okay.
And the real question was, those people didn't care what the verdict was. The verdict had nothing to do with what's going on in Ferguson. And yet the white people, most of the, us people, we don't complain about it. The verdict had nothing to do with those riots. That was planned.
Right. And here's why, and you're absolutely right. I'm telling you that my people have been consistent through here. That the people of Ferguson, white and black, don't want anything to do with that. It's the outside agitators that have been encouraged, have been brought in by the Obama administration. They've got the Communist Party USA coming in from Chicago. They got Van Jones' organization from Oakland that have been brought in. People from all around the nation are anarchists that are there. They're the ones, they're the problem. And that's why it's so staged, it's so obvious. And then of course now, what happened today? Well, the president, he had to convene a big meeting on a civil rights issue about Ferguson. And then yesterday, who showed up in Ferguson at the church? By the way, look at the video. The people there didn't like him there. They were not as appreciative as one might think. Very, very lukewarm applause, that sort of thing. And then, of course, you had Eric the Great. He's now off doing his racist tour. He's in Atlanta today and tomorrow, firing people up there, talking to only black congregations. It doesn't seem like he's trying to build bridges. It's called the Bridges Tour or something. Not the Liberty Tour. Yes, sir.
Hey, what do you think about the government's investigation into this situation? What?
You mean,
Eric Holder's he was gonna look into this thing, and he's looking into the police department in
in
Right.
Ferguson.
Right, and,
How do you think that's gonna come out?
well, if anything comes out from it, there's no evidence about Wilson to show that he did anything wrong. He did everything according to, it's a tragedy, let's face it. And I feel for Michael Brown because I made my life working with Michael Brown's to get him away from drugs and to get him away from the gang thing and the violence and all that stuff. And every time something like that happens, I get crushed. Personally, I take it that way. But what's happening here is they've got no game. They've got no evidence, so they're getting, it's the same old thing though. A district attorney or prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. And they might indict a ham sandwich. And it's just gonna be all for show. It'll be a racist extravaganza on their part. I'm gonna call it like it is. So that's where these guys are going with it. I don't think it's gonna gain any momentum for them, other than it's just consumption for their own race base, who they pander to all the time. It's the race hustling industry. The guy who really made the comment, the great comment, was Alan West on the 24th, who said that what we're seeing here, and this extends to a lot of things from this administration, what we're seeing here is the federalization by the federal government of local control. They're going in there with their own investigation. They had 100 FBI agents. Those FBI agents were in there before the Ferguson police were actually warming up to go out and talk to people.
100 Homeland Security vehicles sitting 27 miles away?
Yeah, so they were federalizing that event and taking away local control. Now that's happening in education with Race to the Top and Common Core, right? And it's happening with healthcare, it's happening with everything. And that's a sure sign of a dictator. So this comes down to this, and this is why I love the Tea Party. And Roger's here, and this is really kind of Roger's night, and it's a great stepping stone for all the things that could possibly happen, is that it does come down to one person at a time, a community of one, to get the word out. How many of you knew any of this stuff tonight before you walked in here? No, zero hands. Oh, Thomas, though. Is that a Budweiser?
That's Diet Coke.
But you see, now I'm going to give you the Rosa Corey thing. When I started Agenda 21 Radio, and she taught me all about what was happening, I picked it up immediately. I saw what was happening with these folks. She said, you've got to swear to me that you will go out and tell other people about what I've taught you. And I say that to my audience all the time. We need to go out and tell other people. They can't stop it. They cannot stop you from talking to other people. They may threaten, they may cajole, but the bottom line, one person talking to another person, talking to another person, is more powerful than any government on earth. And that's what they're trying to stop with the internet and everything else. It's not working. So go out and tell everybody you know about what happened here. And you're going to get looked at, like this guy, tinfoil hat, denial of the facts and all that stuff. But after a while, people go, I think you got something there. I got a call this morning from a guy in North Carolina. Okay, my sleep patterns are really terrible. But I got a call from a guy in North Carolina about 5 o'clock our time. My cell phone rings. And I'm looking down this morning, who's calling me now? And it was a caller from North Carolina, one of my listeners. And he was wanting information about one of the things we're doing, about the Big Brother picture, things like that. And I'm sitting going, okay, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And he says, I'm doing everything I can to get the word out about your radio show and what you're talking about. He says, I'm taking off the gloves. That made my day. That made my day. And you have a day like that. It will happen. It's one person at a time. That was in North Carolina. 5 o'clock in the morning. But I'm more than happy to answer that phone call. But that's what we need to be doing in this situation because, they are not playing. But here's what I think about these. They're cowards. These people are absolute despotic cowards. And you've ever confronted a bully in your life? When you've been bullied? There's a defining moment. I've been in fights, I've grown up as a kid, shooting bullying and all that. But there's a defining moment when the bully has bullied you so much you step up and get in his face. And I've had that happen to me many times. And I've always noticed that they cower because you actually got in their face and stood up. Now's the time to stand up. Doesn't matter how big you are, how old you are, how young you are, who you are, but you take these things on whenever you can talk the truth. That's how you stand up to the bullies. Don't let the bullies win. And Obama is an absolute coward. Absolute coward. Hides behind Michelle all the time.
Yeah, do you think it was Soros's move to keep all the major networks from having Obama give his speech on the border, on immigration? None of them posted his.
No, the cable, ABC, CBS, the cables had it.
Including Fox. Fox didn't put it on either.
I saw it all. I watched it on Fox.
It was on Fox.
It was on Fox. But the air broadcast was deliberately left off. I don't know if you guys know that. Do you know that? This is the manipulation of the Soros media. The air broadcast, because you still have rabbit ears out there. Do you know that? They broadcast these shows by air like radio still. How many of you knew that? How many of you have ever, how many, Bill has, you got, okay. And it's free, by the way. You don't have to pay any cable fees. And the signal, by the way, from Sacramento to here is excellent. Sorry, Comcast. But what happened when this amnesty thing came up, they shut all air broadcasts of that speech to everybody in the nation. Did you know that? It only went exclusively to the cables. That's George Soros. Another George Soros is the Rhodes brothers. And you've heard me talk about this on the radio show. Ben Rhodes and David Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is chief advisor to President Barack Hussein Obama. He's the architect behind Benghazi talking points with Miss Rice. It's only about a movie. Well, it's kind of interesting is that on November 5th, the day before the 2012 election, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this little video clip come across, and I watched it, and it was an interview of Steve Croft with President Obama. And it happened to have been done on September 12th, 2012. So I watched it. It was supposed to be a segment for 60 minutes. So I said, in this segment, Obama admits that it was an attack. I'm going, let's see. It's November 5th, tomorrow's the election, and we're just finding out about this. So we broke the story that night before the election, Chris Street and I. As far as I know, we were the only ones on radio doing it. Yeah, maybe 5 or 6 people listening. I don't care what somebody was. So we broke that story. And as it turns out, that was supposed to air Sunday night on that 60 Minutes to tell the world about the attack. But instead, they couldn't do that. They had to have Susan Rice go out to all the 5 talk shows, Sunday political shows, right? And say, it was about this movie. Now, let's see. How did that happen? Well, you see, Ben Rhodes, chief advisor to the president, he convenes a meeting with Susan Rice and talking points. Now, she's not the Secretary of State. She was a representative to the UN. See, Hillary was supposed to be there. Hillary was supposed to be doing this. You see, they wouldn't put Hillary out there because, you see, as they're finding out now, and the dirty little secret they're running from, is that the whole Benghazi thing was a State Department mission for gun running weapons from Qatar to Libya to Syria to ISIS. Because you see, we're arming ISIS. That's the dirty little secret. But see, this is what happened. Ben says, I'm going to call my bro, David. Talk about Soros-controlled media, and I'll listen to this. So he calls David. David says, got you covered, bro. We won't broadcast that Stephen Croft segment. It's because, me, David Rhodes, I'm the president of CBS. Do you get the connection there? David Rhodes is president of CBS, and he said, we're not going to air that because the president has a different narrative now. And that's how that started. They covered for the president. Cheryl Atkinson, in her book Stonewall, has a great segment on that. It explains it perfectly, how they did it, the stonewalling. This is seditious behavior. And it's being noted by people. So, you know, how this is going to play out in the future, I don't know, but that's a Soros-controlled media asset. You connect that dot and see they're protecting the president at any cost. And we're finding out about this now. That's tough going for Hillary Clinton when she gets in front of Trey Gowdy. Won't that be a wonderful thing? I'm pretty excited about that. One last question.
You're so smart. Let me ask one question real quick, because you're so smart. No, seriously. Is the Republican Party and the Tea Party scared to death to impeach Obama? Will the blacks overthrow our government if that would happen?
No.
He needs
No,
to be impeached.
Politically, there's a sea change in terms of what is happening with blacks and Hispanics in particular to the conservative side. And this is the first time in our history in a long time that we're starting to see this, because you're starting to see, and this is in part thanks to Fox News, you're starting to see conservative blacks come forward. And aren't they outstanding? Mia Love, give me a break. I mean, we're seeing people that are absolutely stellar human beings, and they're going at Sharpton and these racists out there. It's a wonderful thing to see this whole thing unfold. Hispanics are coming across heavy too. Look what happened with Abbott in the voting in Texas. And here in California, there's a big swing afoot as well. Deborah.
Everyone is fine. In the days running up to when they announced the verdict, they made a lot of fanfare. The verdict is coming, the verdict is coming, the verdict is coming. And I was thinking, what are they hiding? There must be something else going on in the media, because I know it's a distraction. And then I read one place that they released 5 more prisoners from Gitmo,
Right.
and 3 of them went to Russia, and I can't remember where the other was. I only read it in the one place.
Okay, and what you're picking up on, always look for these things. And this is a good point, and I don't bring this out enough. I call it the OD factor. The OD factor, Obama distraction factor. Okay, we had Ferguson, but the other distraction, the other reality that was going on was the release of 5 more Gitmo prisoners. 5 more. And he's trying to just bleed them down. Yes, sir.
A quick comment. Your opinion of Ben Carson.
I love the guy. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Listen, Larry's going, I think he's doing that to me. I think that anybody, I mean, if you just want to see this and just enjoy it, watch the speech he made at the prayer session. That's Carla back there. Watch the speech he made at the prayer session with in front of Obama. Did you ever see that?
Yep.
Oh my God! Just put it on a loop. Let it play through and just watch it and enjoy it. Because and of course the next day he's audited. There's one last question from this gorgeous young lady. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know where I hear you. This is our first time here, and you said...
What radio station?
What radio
KMYC
station?
1410 AM here. All right, I know I did it radio speed. The Wednesday program. Oh, it's every day. It's Monday through Friday.
You mentioned one you were going to speak on.
Oh, this Wednesday? I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, the show is live. This is the play series here going on. So on every night from 7 to 10 out of Marysville, KMYC 1410 AM. Did I say it too fast? 1410 AM, the show is on, it's on right now. In fact, when you get done, I did this special for Roger. I interviewed Roger today. So in the third hour from 9 to 10, starting at 9:30, you'll hear Roger again. Because I interviewed Roger today. He's always on my show. He's getting to be a pest now. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, but the show airs live from 12 to 3, Monday through Friday, out of KIQS in Willows and Crack 1370 in Chico. I know. Like crack cocaine.
Hey, if we impeach Obama, impeach
Holder.
all of them, Harry Reid and Biden, all at the same time, would a Republican be automatic the president, Boehner? No, they would still find another liberal?
No, it would be Boehner.
Yeah,
There's third, he's third in line.
Right.
But,
That's another one.
yeah, that's a big possibility. Yes, last, I'm out here. Carla's gonna throw me out.
How many last questions are we gonna have?
But every second there's an application for a gun license.
Oh, that's, and she's gone.
It's tripled.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. This is good news. Over the holiday, there were more guns sold than at any time in our nation's history over this last Thanksgiving holiday. I don't know, that's a trend. Thank you.